This is Astrology for Awakening, where we examine the current astrological aspects, the current weather patterns, and we deepen our attunement. We go below the surface level from fixating on events, what's going to happen to me, to attunement, and attunement to the deeper invitation that these sacred energies are offering us in order to open up and to live a more awakened life. And with Mars moving into Libra, I'm titling this episode, The Courage to Love. Traditionally, Mars moving into Libra is considered a difficult or even a very difficult, perhaps even a negative placement, a negative period. And what does that mean? From a conventional perspective, that Mars movement through Libra can be challenging. Here's a common experience that kind of represents what that can look like for us. Imagine that someone close to you, in your family, in your community, in your workplace, someone you care about even, has done something that has crossed a boundary. Not something horrible, not something illegal, but something that bothers you, that irks you, that eats at you, and that is therefore calling you to have a challenging or what's called a crucial conversation. In fact, that's the title of a best-selling book, Crucial Conversations, 4 authors, and they point out that this is the stumbling block in work life and in personal life, that we struggle in times of conflict to connect. And that's the challenge of Mars in Libra. Libra is the sign of relationship par excellence, and Mars has to do with conflict. And how do we have generative conflict that brings relationship more fully into a kind of generative balance? So what they point out in this book, Crucial Conversations, is that most of us find such conversations challenging because our Mars has been activated. And when the Mars is activated, they're suggesting, and it's kind of a handy catchphrase, that we fall into either silence or violence. Silence, not like meditative silence, not like serene, balanced silence, but a Martian silence that is fuming, and where our aura is emanating, flamethrowers of unspoken anger. Or violence, which they don't mean hitting and stabbing and things like that. They just mean that we verbalize our anger, we express our judgments in terribly unskillful ways, where we give voice to disdain and to blame, silence or violence. But these crucial conversations, in fact, are the very stuff of intimacy, of deeper connection, and of that very Libran word of relationship. Because relationship isn't just about niceties, it's not just about diplomacy, which Libra certainly has the capacity for. It's for a more balanced, more open, more connected communication and communion. What's the balance between? What is the Libran balance? It's the balance between speaking and listening. It's the balance between being clear, being direct, and revealing what's going on for you on the one side, and on the other side, being open, being receptive, being curious, and being willing to be influenced, to receive influence. So being courageous, both in seeking to influence with integrity, with heart, and being courageous to receive influence into your heart, to speak and to listen with skill. And this is the training that the Mars into Libra is inviting us into. Not to repress your views and not to become identified with them. But to allow some spaciousness, right, within your own perceptions, with your own awareness. That's the air element of Libra, to realize your thoughts are just your thoughts. They're not ultimate truths. Beautiful. And even more challenging often for Mars is to bend the knee, as it were, to be willing to receive influence, which is really one of the most powerful things that you can do to build connection. To allow yourself to enter into the felt sense of the other person's experience. So again, Mars into Libra, not to be silence or violence, not to be overly diplomatic, speaking around the issues, smoothing things over, but to breathe in the courage that it takes to be vulnerable, both in speaking and in listening. And this balancing of Libra is dynamic, like in a yoga balancing pose. It's constantly shifting around that center of gravity, ever changing. And with mindfulness and self-awareness to notice, in my important relationships and in crucial conversations, am I overemphasizing my agenda, or am I suppressing my agenda? Am I acquiescing too readily, or am I, which is not the same as receiving influence? Because I can receive influence and still have a strong back, not collapsing. So this is the practice of Mars into Libra. It brings with it a beautiful Martian quality, which is fierce commitment. The fierce commitment then is to stay with the process and to not allow the impatient nature of Mars to ignite and to explode into either silence or violence, but to contain that fire and bank it with our values, with our care, with our vulnerability, so that we can find our own voice without blame, with just the clarity of an open-hearted communication, and to open our hearts also to tune into the beauty and the value of what others are bringing. Now, I have found that the discipline of nonviolent communication is a powerful tool in this context, and it's a perfect tool for this symbolism of Mars in Libra. It's nonviolent communication. It's about entering into crucial conversations with a primary commitment, the Libran primary commitment, which is to deepen connection and mutual understanding, so that Mars can then find a way for us to act together in alignment. Mars in Libra.